Hi class. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the articles in the articles folder. So as you can see on our course homepage here, so your homepage should look the same as mine here or similar. So under Unit 1, there's the instructions for our article summary and reader response, assignment number 1. You can find, the instructions for the unit. You should see the articles folder. So when you click on that, it will give you a couple of options. And each of these articles has been selected because they are going to be used when we read The Education of Augie Morasti. We're going to read this in Unit 2, this memoir, The Education of Augie Morasti. And it's a residential school memoir written by Joseph August Morasti, along with his co-writer David Carpenter. So when we're going to write about this book eventually in Unit 2, and then we're going to also draw information from one of these journal articles to include in our essay. So you're going to eventually use information from one of these articles in a paper. But at this point, I just want to see that you can read and understand and summarize the article on its own. So each of these articles has something to do with residential school survivors, but they all have a sort of different focus. So for example, one of them, or both of these ones, they're two different articles, but if I download one here, this one has to do with food in the school system, and it kind of talks about focuses on the lack of nutrition in the foods, the lack of quantity in the food given to the Indigenous children in residential schools, and basically goes through some information and examples of research that's been done on that topic. So you'll read through this article if this is the one you choose, and summarize what you've learned based on this article. So if you're interested in that aspect of food, there's two different ones to choose from. This one is similar, but this one's Hunger Was Never Absent, How Residential School Diets Shaped Current Patterns of Diabetes Among Indigenous People in Canada. It gives you some information. CMAJ is the journal name, and this is the DOI. It gives you a date, so 2017, August 14th, and a page range. So there's a little bit more, volume 189, issue number 32. And then the authors' names are actually listed at the very bottom here. Ian Mosby and Tracy Galloway. So this one's only 3 pages. So if you're, overwhelmed with this assignment, pick one of the shorter articles, and it'll give you a little bit less information to process in your paragraph. But this one's really interesting too, and it's quite easy to understand. So make note when you're picking your article to pick one that you understand, that's not too complicated, that you're not going to have a real struggle understanding. If it's too hard for you to understand, just put that one aside and try a different article. Don't try to force yourself to pick something that's going to be really difficult for you to understand. And they all, have interesting ideas in them, but again, you want to make a good selection for yourself and be able to sort of understand and explain it clearly. So those were the 2 articles on food and related to in the residential school system. There's one long one. This one's pretty long, but it is interesting, and it defines this topic of historical trauma, which I think is a really important topic that we'll be talking about. So this one is written by Maria Yellow Horse Braveheart. If you're citing her name, you could just use Hart 2003, as the or in your citation, you would just use Hart and the page number. You are given a little reference right here, but you might need to change a couple of these things because it's not in the right order. So just make sure that you're following an MLA style reference template. And there's a good one on the OWL Purdue website, which I'll link to on the course homepage. But take a look at the example that they give on the OWL website, and then take a look at this one, and you'll notice some differences. So you should be listing last name first, not first name. In MLA style, you put the title of the article in quotation marks, the journal name, so Journal of Psychoactive Drugs should be italicized, and then you need to write out volume or vol dot 35, issue numbers 1, and then our page range is 7 to 13, and then the DOI info there. So just don't trust the one that's in the article. Sometimes it's incorrectly formatted. So just, you're going to have to do a little bit of shuffling information around and making sure that the formatting is correct for MLA style. So yeah, this one is all about historical trauma, and they use HT as a shortened version. You can read the abstract, which again is their summary of the article. So you're basically going to write something similar to this for your summary paragraph, but again, you don't want to copy it word for word. You want to make sure that you understand the article as a whole from your own perspective. But they're talking about historical trauma, and then they're going to talk about residential school systems and some of the features or symptoms that relate to kind of PTSD or historical trauma is what they call it. And she's going to also talk about substance abuse, which will become a theme when we talk about Augie Merasti's memoir. He struggles a lot with alcohol addiction, so that'll be maybe an interesting connection if people want to focus on that aspect of trauma and how survivors often struggle to overcome PTSD or their trauma, and often use some unhealthy coping mechanisms like substance use or other forms. So this one's all about that kind of information. So if that's something that interests you, the discussion of PTSD or trauma, or how substance abuse is related to that, this might be an article that piques your interest, and you could take a look more at this one. And then let's see, what other articles do we have? There's another one on alcohol addiction here. Just zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this one is titled Impact of Residential Schooling and of Child Abuse on Substance Use Problems in Indigenous Peoples. So this is the title of the article. It's in a journal. If I just, move the screen up a little bit. It's in the journal called Addictive Behaviors. So that's the journal name or journal title. These are all of the authors. So you have 5 different authors: Ross, Dion, Cantinotti, Colin Valendia, and Paquette. Because you have 5 authors here, you would need to use a shortened version of their names. So you would just use the last name of the first author and then use the short abbreviation et al. So ETAL period, instead of listing all 5 names every time you mention those authors. You would say Ross et al. And then discuss what this article is about. Volume, issue number, let's see if we can find that. Sometimes you have to look around, it's not obvious. Sometimes you have to look at the bottom of the page. Oh, where am I missing this? Oh, here. Sorry, I'm just trying to grab the screen. Okay, so at the very bottom here, it does say it has a DOI. So the http //dxdoi, that's the DOI information that you can just include in your reference. Let's see, where is the volume? Oh, here. At the very top, it says Ross et al. Addictive Behaviors. 51 is the volume number. There's no issue number for this one. You have a year and then you have a page range. So the page numbers are up here. So if I quoted, information from this paragraph or something, I would need to cite the page where that information is taken from and use Ross et al. So ETAL dot, and then the page number in my citations. Yeah, so this article is, again, about the topic of substance use and childhood abuse and how those things are linked for residential school survivors. So again, you can read the abstract and get a better sense of whether this is a topic that interests you or not, and whether you want to write your summary paragraph on this topic. So yeah, you have a couple of different options to choose from for articles. Just going to close that one. And then another one here, I'm not really healed. So this one, again, each one you'll notice they all look a little bit different. But when you are writing your MLA reference, they should all look very, according to the template that you use, all the same. So here our authors are Tracy Carr, Brian Chartier, and Tina D'Agostari. So you, again, have 3 authors. So you would need to use the et al. Abbreviation. This is the title of the article. So I'm not really healed. I'm just bandaged up. Perceptions of healing among former students of Indian residential schools. There is a DOI here that you would need to also include. Let's see. Oh, we have info here. So at the bottom of this page, it gives you the name of the journal. So this is from the International Journal of Indigenous Health. It gives you a volume and an issue number. It gives you the year, and then you may have to count the pages. So 39, 40, 41, count how many pages are in that article and include that page range. So again, this article interviews various Indigenous residential school survivors, and it talks about their perceptions of healing. And so it's sort of a study, and it includes qualitative information. So it includes quotations from people who are interviewed. So you'll just notice, the methods sections, the different sections that are included in this article. And then their findings are summarized in a table. So they talk about various themes that emerged from all of their interviews. And they talk about each of these themes separately as well, and quote from the survivors themselves who they interviewed. And they're just basically, collecting this information from these survivors and organizing it in thematically. So it would be kind of interesting to pull information from this article and reflect on that as well for, if that's something you're interested in. So yeah, pick one of the articles. We'll just go back to here. You have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to choose from. Pick one of them and make sure that you connect or are interested in the topic, because it's going to be something maybe you'll talk about for Unit 1, but you might also want to develop it further as an essay topic for Unit 2 when we get into our first novel and essay assignment for Unit 2. So yeah, pick the article, pick the one that you understand the best as well. So if you really want to talk about or think about food as it relates to health and residential schools, pick that as a topic, or pick one of the articles that really kind of piques your interest, but also that you can understand the ideas in. It's a good idea to just read the abstract for the article and get a sense of what that article is about. And, you know, if it's not something that you're interested in, move on to the next one. And if you're having trouble finding specific info like the volume, the issue number, the page range, just email me and we can confirm that info if you're really lost and not able to find it on the article itself. And I can kind of poke you in the right direction and show you where you should be looking for that specific article. As you could see, you know, sometimes it's at the top of the page, sometimes it's at the very bottom of the page, sometimes it's, you know, you have to kind of look because each article kind of looks a little bit different. Yeah, so just explore the articles at first and then pick the one that you feel most connected to and that you feel like you can understand and summarize in a nice concise paragraph.